are live and we are streaming on Facebook.
How
And this is
exciting.
Coffee with the Coaches. It's Monday. It is June 3rd. It's 3 p.m. It's got to be 3 p.m. because we're on. And Peter, who do we have today? We have a special guest today, I believe.
Yes, I am thrilled. Kelly Holmquist from the Holmquist Group. If that name sounds familiar, it should. Business partner of my co-host, Christopher Holmquist.
Oh.
Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We've heard all about your 2024, and Chris and I are breaking these numbers down and talking about it, and so psyched to dive into it with you today because I think they're very eye-opening as to what is really possible out there in a world full of challenges in our industry. So it's really nice to have you. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start. Let's everybody out there in Facebook land that doesn't know you yet, although that's hard to believe that there's anybody left, who you are and kind of years in the business, and where you are today.
I have been in real estate for 27 years full time. I've been with Keller Williams for the past, is it 14 years or 15 years? I was with the Blue Company before Keller Williams, so been around for 27 years. For the past 20 years, I've primarily focused on listings. I have a buyer contract under contract right now. It's the first one in 10 years.
Yep, there you go.
Just reminds me that I don't want to do that anymore. It's just such a time suck.
We'll get into that. We're going to talk a lot about the time
Yeah.
issue. All right, go on.
Listings is really a much better time management tool.
Yes.
Last year I closed 53 listings myself. This year I should definitely do more than that. I've been on a tremendous number of listing presentations this year.
How many, Kelly? We're on June 3rd, mind you, people. That's 5 months into the year, 30 months, 30 days. We're about 150 days into the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how many listing appointments have you gone on?
64.
64.
Wow.
All right, so let me just
Four of them in June alone.
yeah, four of them in June alone, and four of them today,
Yeah,
actually.
today.
All right, so we were going to get to that as well.
I'm
So
kind
that
of shot, so please
yeah,
excuse my brain if I
that's
have
quite
a
all right. You're entitled. Let's break that down for people just so that, if there's people that are not in the real estate business, right? Listing appointments is the ultimate goal of real estate, is it not? Would you not agree?
yes.
Right. I mean,
Although it is tough at times.
it is tough at times, but I mean, if you want to make it in real estate, you need to get to the listing appointment table, and that's how we measure our worth, or how successful we can be in this business. Those numbers are ridiculous based on what's going on. Peter and I coach real estate agents, as everybody knows, on a regular basis. And there are people who, won't go on 64 listing appointments in a lifetime. There are people that have gone on only like 2, 3, or 4, or maybe 0 listing appointments so far this year. And, in New Jersey, where we're at, anybody who sells 10 homes a year is crushing it or doing making a pretty
Mhm,
good living, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
and Kelly's doing 5 times that, right? So this is why we're having her on here, because these numbers, whether or not you understand the real estate business, these numbers are spectacular in a market where everybody is saying how hard it is. So we're going to dive into why that is, and then some of your secrets, if that's okay, Kelly.
Sure.
Because what's our philosophy on sharing secrets?
There are no secrets. I
Why?
mean,
Why not?
why not be willing to share with everybody you possibly can? Because we know there's such a small fraction of people that will actually use the advice that we give.
Right.
I have
So
yet to use somebody to use my secrets against me.
amazing. 27 years in the business,
Yeah, no,
and nobody's really used your secrets against you.
no.
It's amazing, right, Peter?
That's incredible.
It's incredible. All right, so you've built up to this point, and just to let everybody know as well, you have been consistent in doing this over the last, like you said, what, 10, 15 years. I mean, it's really been a system that has worked for you consistently, bar none,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I started day one, way back in the early days. It was just looking in newspapers for sale by owners. That's how it all started. There was no
Oh,
internet back then. It was newspapers. I used to get every newspaper I could get my hands on.
and this was your lead generation.
Hmm.
All right. So you knew that people needed to, that you wanted to find people who had to sell their homes.
Hmm.
So at the time, this was 1997-ish, right?
Hmm.
When you got in.
Yep.
So you're getting these papers, you see that there's for sale by owners. What do you do?
Called them.
And say,
I didn't know enough back then not to call them.
right. And so what did you say?
I asked them if they were cooperating with agents. I asked if they had any resource to call if they ended up getting an offer or if they went through a weekend and didn't have showings. I just offered to be a resource. I never said I have a buyer for your home. I used to ask, can I come and see it? I like to know what the inventory is that's on the market. And typically the first person, if they don't have an agent in mind, the first person that they come face to face with is who they'll end up hiring
Right.
to
So
get
very
their foot in the
early,
door.
right. So almost from day one in the business, you realized that you wanted to work on the selling side of that. Obviously, somebody told you that that was the way that you had the best chance of surviving in the business.
Well, don't be too confident in that because the day I graduated Fast Start or in Fast Start, I remember turning to the person next to me going, "What is a listing?" I had no idea. No
Yeah.
idea.
All right. Well, I mean, intuitively, then perhaps, you just knew that this was the direction that you went in and wanted to go. So, all right, fast forward a little bit, you start to realize what this business is all about, right? So, what did you realize early about this business in terms of like, oh, this is what I need to do, you know what I mean, to be successful?
To learn as much as I possibly could about the business, about inventory, um about houses, about what people need. I- There really was no playbook. It was all just figure it out as you go.
Right.
So it's whatever clients needed from me and whatever I needed to make a living, let's see where they intersect and see what we can do
Interesting. All right. So,
and
you know,
follow up.
yeah. So,
To this day, from day one to day, you know, 30,000, it's all about follow up.
okay. So now we get to the crux of it. We really do, right? I mean,
Mhm.
because Peter can tell me that he wants to buy something from me, but if I don't follow up, then what's going to happen, right? He's going to go
They'll
away.
find somebody who can help them.
Exactly.
People are not sitting around waiting for you to return a call.
Okay, so the light bulb goes off. You realize that I've got to follow up with these people. This is how I'm going to become successful. And I know that you know that from your previous career in the hospitality business, right? That was your methodology when you were in sales, in at
But there's
Marriott.
more to it than that because it's not just following up to be a pain in the neck. There is a balance between following up, staying top of mind, and following up to be a nuisance where they block you.
Right. So how do you find that balance?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really good question. It's a feel. It's a when do you push, when do you pull back?
Mm,
It really is. When do you put the pedal to the metal and when do you let off the gas? It's you have to be top of mind. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that over the years. You are the one we thought of because you always followed up, but you were never obnoxious. I just got a call a half hour ago from somebody who made an inquiry probably 6 months ago through one of the sites, one of the paid referral sites that I get leads from. Put him in my database. He hung up on me, I don't know how many times, never answered my calls, never answered my emails, my texts. And today, out of the clear blue sky, I got an email and a call from him because I would be willing to guarantee that the other five agents that were given the lead, because typically these lead services give the lead out to multiple people, they just try once, twice, three times, and then they go away. They're
well,
done following up on that lead.
Kelly, didn't it hurt your feelings when he hung up on you or didn't answer your phone calls, didn't respond to your texts?
Next.
Next. So tell us about that mentality. Tell us about next.
It took me a while. I'll say when I was early on in the business, it did take me a while to realize that this isn't personal. They just don't like what I'm selling or they don't need me. It's not personal. I don't know them.
Right.
And once I got beyond that and really embrace the the concept that, you know what, it's better for them to work with me than to work with somebody else because I know I'm ethical. I know I'm going to do the best job for them. I know I'm going to give them the best advice. So it's in their best interest to work with me.
All right, so you actually believe what you're selling,
Oh, 100%, 1000%.
1000%. And I think that's hugely important. I think that people have to hear that because I think that there's a lot of people, and I talked to our team this morning about that as well. You know what I mean? You have to, if you're not coming across that way, then you're never going to be genuine. You know what I mean? You're never going to be genuine to your clients.
Hmm. Agreed. I
Right.
mean, I think one of the first things I loved getting into this business was the first company that I worked for offered, um, gosh, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like a seller's bill of rights and a buyer's bill of rights, saying this is everything that we will offer you, and if you don't receive this from us, fire us.
Mhm.
So I have my own service guarantee now that I present to every seller that I meet with. Here's the deal. If after 30 days we don't have a contract and you feel as though you made a mistake in hiring me, I will release you unconditionally and you can go hire another broker tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, you have to believe that. And I feel that you can only do that if you know that you're giving 1000% and you're doing better, you're doing more for people than the average Joe.
So I've heard believe in yourself, believe in your product, follow up. I mean, follow up with nuances, obviously, as you said, you have to find that mix. And here's the thing that people don't understand is it's not about how many times, right? I mean, we have seen examples of you getting a lead from somebody who you first reached out to in 1998.
Oh, yeah. I've listed two of those recently.
Right. And again, so tell us a little bit about this whole philosophy because I always share this with people. I always just say when Kelly hears somebody say, I plan on selling my house now or in the next 100 years, right? Exactly that reaction, right? The ear perks up. And
Me at a
what,
restaurant. Shh, 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 shh,
yeah.
shh.
Yeah.
Stop
Right.
talking.
So what happens? I mean, like seriously, I want you to do this exercise, walk people through. You hear that. What happens from that moment until they list their house with you?
If let's just say I run into somebody and they say, "Oh, yep, we're here for another 3 years, unfortunately. My son doesn't graduate high school until 2027." That's good information to have. You are now added to my mailing list. I'm not going to call you because we're still 3 years out,
Mhm.
but you're going to start getting my regular mailings, and then we're going to track a follow-up in my database for 6 months. Maybe I'll send them a handwritten note. By the way, according to our national database, your home is currently worth X. Just wanted to give you an FYI.
Right.
Things like that. And then every month I do a mailing, postcard mailing or notepad mailing or whatever it might be. They're on my list. They get those mailings for the next 3 years, plus some things sprinkled in. And as we get closer, maybe a year out, I'll start increasing more personalized touches with them.
Again, always showing value, always providing
Yeah.
something of value.
How do you feel? I know you said that you were going to wait until, your son graduates. Are you thinking that you're going to list maybe in February, or are you going to actually list the house after he graduates?
Right.
Because if you're thinking about doing it before May 1st, we could do photos this summer. You have a great pool. Let's do photos this summer. And then we'll have them if you list in February when the pool is actually open.
But why invest all this time in them if you just don't know? I mean, you don't have a crystal ball. You don't know definitively that they're going to list with you. So why invest all this time and energy, potentially years in advance?
Because the percentages are on my side.
Mm. Oh, so you don't just leave it to chance?
No,
Ah.
no,
Similarly, I mean, how do you keep track of all these things that you have to mail out and send down and stuff like that? You keep that all in your head?
no, it's all written down. A lot of it's automated. Some months, like now, I just mailed out a postcard on Saturday. And the week before I started thinking about it, I'm like, what are we going to do for a theme? Pool theme. Time to send out the postcard that says, your house looks the best. It'll look all year right now. Perfect time to take pictures if you're putting your house on the market this winter or early next spring. So it's
Yeah.
a nice bright blue postcard of a pool with some colorful floaties in it. It's attention grabbing.
Right. Okay.
So just being in the right place at the right time, anticipating what people are needing. I mean, probably a year in advance of moving. Curious, what's my house worth now? And what should I focus my energy and resources, my money on between now and the time we're going to put the house on the market? You don't want to wait for the phone call for somebody to say, okay, I'm ready to list my house, and then go and start talking about painting and, landscaping. They should have that list well in advance.
Right.
So, most of the notes that I send out to people say, you know what? It's never, this is what I'm known for saying on my notepads that I'm out. It's never too soon to start talking about the selling process, timing, and getting your house ready for the market.
Simple message.
Hmm.
It doesn't sound like you're doing anything complex.
No, it's just very redundant, boring, basic, over and over and over again.
And incredibly lucrative.
Yeah, this is a great job.
It's a great job. Um, all right, so you have this database, what people want to know is whatever their business that they're in, where do they find the people that want their services or their product?
Wow, there's so many different avenues. I mean, since day one, it was for sale by owners, it was open houses, it was direct mail, it was, magazine advertising, it was everywhere. And let's see what sticks. And then you narrow that down to what works. And then let's add social media and the internet to it. There's so much out there that you kind of have to be everywhere. But you don't really want to spread yourself so thin where you can't excel in one area.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you
we
have to
always say
kind of
that
have,
if you have varied focus, or if you have diversified focus, you have a diversified attention, right? I mean, it's like you can't that saying, right? If you want to catch 9 rabbits, you have to focus on one at a time, right? I mean, you can't
Mhm.
catch all 9 rabbits at the same time, right? So you have to
Unless you have stuff that's automated.
correct the mundo, right?
So
I
you
love
have to put your personal attention into certain things, but so much else can be automated.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You just said you have to put your personal attention into certain things. And you and I both know what those certain things there are over the years, right? We're going to try to automate as much as possible those mundane tasks that you talked about.
Yeah, but you can't automate a relationship with a past client who sends you referrals.
Correct. So in automating those mundane tasks, that frees you up to do what?
Personal
The
touches.
right, the personal connection.
Hmm.
Personal touches, the phone call, the drop by that you always tell me about, the hey, I saw that you changed your front door, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, they're gonna get all that stuff in the background that's just automatic, right? Kelly's market updates, the auto report, the postcards, the little gifts and all that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, it's that personal touch is that thing that, to me at least, what I see is that's the glue that kind of holds it all together and
Yeah,
keeps them
it's a
balanced.
mix of everything, and you need to know who, the people in the mix, how much attention do they get? How much attention do they deserve? How much do they get? Who do you focus on? Who do you not focus on? It's really a matter of knowing who's in your database and who these people are, keeping good notes, and always having a future contact date for whatever reason in your database.
So
There's
no,
nobody in my database that doesn't have a date assigned to them.
right, right. Yeah, constant follow-up.
Yep.
Always something to do, right? For you, always something to do.
There's
So
always something to do.
I think that for the listeners out there, saying, all right, well, but what makes Kelly Kelly? And I've thought a lot about this. And, I read articles all the time about high performers and people that do extraordinary things. And I ran across a Harvard Business Review article on high performers. And this talks about how high, they call them high potentials, right? People that have high potential to succeed, how high potentials are hardwired, and the 4 X factors of high potentials, right? So I'm going to go through these and see, Kelly, if they resonate with you at all, right? So X factor number 1 is a drive to excel. This is what it says. High potentials aren't just high achievers. They are driven to succeed. Good, even very good, isn't good enough. Not by any stretch. They're more willing to make sacrifices in their personal lives in order to advance the business. You're true to your values, but you make hard choices, right? How does that resonate with you?
100% true.
And talk a little bit about that. Why isn't good enough or good enough?
Because it's my reputation. And I feel as though, anything that slips through the cracks, anybody who's not happy, I really have a problem when I have a closing and Heidi, my assistant, will ask me, should we ask them for a review? 9 times out of 10, it's yes. And the ones that are a no are sometimes nothing that truly happened in the transaction, but I just know that that person is the type of person that's never going to be 100% satisfied. It could have been that nothing in the transaction went wrong, but just that I know, you know what, they're not the type of person who's ever going to give anybody a 10 out of 10. But I don't like those because I do think about them. After the closing, I think, why can't we send them a review request? What was it? Was there something, and I'll go back in my memory, is there something that happened? No. Did anything go wrong? No. But I just feel like
And you're
it's,
talking about a potentially successful sale that
yeah, a
happened, just
successful
wasn't
sale. But
successful to the level that you wanted.
yeah, I just feel that for me, I didn't get 100%. Maybe I didn't give 100%. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I just knew that it wasn't 100%, and it does bother me. It'll wear off after a couple of days, but I don't like that feeling knowing that I walked away from somebody who might not be a raving fan.
Got it. Wow, you're harder on yourself than I am.
I am really hard on myself. It's terrible.
X factor number 2, a catalytic learning capability. They have the capacity to scan for new ideas, the cognitive capability to absorb them, and the common sense to translate that new learning into productive action for their customers and their organizations. My interpretation of this is that you can go to a class or you can read something, you can quickly figure out what is worthwhile implementing into your business, and you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh
it's
yeah, that's
and
the
you do
kicker.
it is the
Mm-hmm.
kicker, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's where, Peter, 95% of people fall down on that one, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what makes you be able to pick those things out and implement them?
I don't know. It's, I guess it's just knowing your business and what you truly know would make a difference, whether it be in your service and your listing presentation or what might it be. If you've kind of really narrowed down what you do on a daily basis, if you've nailed it down to what's most important and take out all the fluff
Yeah.
and know what matters and what doesn't matter, it's easy when you hear these ideas to determine, yeah, that's a waste of money, it's a waste of time versus that would really add something to my business. So I think
Wow.
you have to know what your business is first before you can. I mean, you remember going to trade shows
Hmm.
and wanting to buy every
Everything.
shiny,
Yeah.
yeah, every single shiny new thing. But it wasn't until I said, you know what, I know what I'm doing and I know that I'm good at what I do, that I don't need all the shiny, you know,
All right, let me just interrupt you
things.
for a second there because really important for people to understand that um, what you're saying is you know your business so intimately that it's easy to identify where something can be of value or increase the value of your process already,
Correct.
right? So think about it, people. I mean, if you have a business that is complex and cumbersome and layers upon layers, there's not enough time and data to come in to like try to figure out where something's going to fit, right? I
Hmm.
mean, if you have like, you know, 5 things, then it's easy. If you have 500 things, it's a lot harder. So I love the fact
I
that you,
mean, even just narrowing it down, you know that on a daily basis, there are 5 different classes that I could attend
yeah.
on different topics all over the place. And just figuring out what's even worth my time to go to.
Well, that
So
takes
when some,
self-awareness, Kelly, and that's a big ask for, the vast majority of people. I think that takes self-awareness. You got to know yourself as well as your business.
definitely.
All right. Um, an enterprising spirit is X factor number 3. They say that high potentials are always searching for productive ways to blaze new paths, take on challenges of leaving their career comfort zones periodically in order to advance. And as you and I spoke about before the show, the it reminded me of, your willingness to pivot to doing short sales, when the market crashed, right?
Hmm.
High achievers, high potentials will not sit there and blame the market, and instead they go and figure it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. However, I will disclaimer, the older I get, the less I'm willing to bend and flex and try new things.
Look,
However, sometimes you have to really stay on top of things.
and you've earned it. I mean, if you're going to have some inflexibility right now, I think that you've earned that after 27 years crushing it and showing the value that you have, right? So I agree with that as well. Dynamic sensors is X factor number 4. Beyond judgment, high potentials possess what we call dynamic sensors. They have a feeling for timing, an ability to quickly read situations, and a nose for opportunity. Their enterprising spirit might otherwise lead them to make foolish decisions, but these sensors help them decide, for example, when to pursue something and when to pull back. High potentials have a knack for being in the right place at the right time. Damn, Kelly, you're always so lucky.
I've been hearing that since my first year in the business.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's that one is that comes from a lot of different places, I think.
Mm.
Just being socially aware. That's like step number one to that whole what you just said.
Yeah.
Knowing how to read people, knowing when to push and when pushing too much becomes obnoxious
Yeah.
versus pulling back and reading people's body language. It's no different than sitting in a listing presentation and reading somebody's body language when what you just told them, they sat back in their chair. Okay, let's back up a little. Let's pull off the gas a little bit and
Right.
dig a little bit deeper to find out why is this such a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a hard one to learn. That one comes with experience,
I was going to say also age plays a factor. And I mean,
age and experience.
age and experience. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
by age. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've seen some youngins these days who don't have that gift yet.
Yes.
Like cringeworthy.
Yeah.
We really gonna keep going with this.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so all 4 of those X factors resonate. I think that we even see kind of root causes for some of them, and how you've developed, your business. I don't know, it's just wild to look at that. Peter, any questions for Kelly that I haven't thought of just yet, before we kind of go on to the next part of this?
Think about, like, you mentioned boring and routine and repetitive, and what is it that keeps pushing you forward? I mean, it sounds like you're intensely personally invested in the results of your clients, as opposed to, I just want to sell X amount of houses. I want to make X amount of dollars. It seems like there's a real personal component to this.
It's funny because Peter and I had this conversation, my son Peter, recently. He was asking about, I was telling him about my business and what's coming on the market in the next couple of weeks. We have a lot of listings coming on. And he immediately translated that to dollars and cents.
Mhm.
And I said, I have no idea, Peter. I couldn't tell you how much money, if those 9 listings sell, what that's going to be. How could you not know? I'm like, because it's not about the money. I'll just keep saying that. It's not about the money. If you're lucky
About?
enough to get paid at the end of a successful transaction, you've earned it.
So what's it about?
Otherwise, you haven't earned it until you've gone to the closing table.
Yeah, so if it's not about the money, what is it about?
It's about holding myself accountable. I have extremely high standards, and for not being an athlete growing up, I am extremely competitive. I know my stats and every other top agent in the market, what their stats are and where we differ and where are we, next to each other. But really delivering, um, just delivering to my clients what I know is the best job that I could have possibly done. I got this text the other night and I thought it was so nice. It said, this was a seller who had their house on the market last year for 3 months, took it off the market, and the agent wouldn't release them from their contract. So she had to wait an additional 3 months.
Mm.
But she she did a lot of staging, she did painting, she did so much based on the recommendations that I gave her when it came off the market. It says, I'm in such a better place for selling, and that's all because of you. You are phenomenal, and I'm so appreciative of your guidance.
Wow.
So many people are afraid to tell their clients the truth.
Oh, say more about that.
People want to pussyfoot around and they want to tell people what they want to hear because they want to be liked. And Chris knows that is not me.
No.
I believe more
But
in what I'm
you're
saying rather than who I am.
yeah, but you're a little self-deprecating when it comes to that because you don't deliver that, in a negative way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did thank a millennial, however, the other night. I had dinner with somebody who was 29 years old, and I said, I really have to thank your generation for spending phenomenal amounts of money on houses that are staged beautifully that have no substance. I said, only your generation could do this. My generation, we bought what we could afford. It was a dump and we'd spend money fixing it up. But you guys will pay a whole lot of money for a staged house. I said, it's great market. But it's yeah, there are generational differences too. And being aware of those things too. There's a lot to be aware of. Personalities, ages,
Yeah.
living situations.
So I guess the initial question from Peter really was centered around, right? It was never about the money, right? It was how are you enduring the suck? And I think it's when we say enduring the suck, I mean it's any of that monotonous stuff that people have to do that own businesses, and they all have to do it. There's no business that's exempt from the suck, right? Because that's how you get business.
Mhm.
You have to be in there and
So
doing
how do
the
you survive that? You
right.
have to take breaks. You have to take vacations. You have to take weekends away. You have to do things that totally separate you from that monotonous lead gen on a daily basis. Otherwise, you will lose your mind.
Yeah.
You have to do enough that you feel that you've earned it, that you deserve it.
And don't you find the gold within that consistency, right? I mean, I always tell people the story about, catching the great sunrises, right? How do you catch the great sunrises? Well, you go to the beach every single morning for sunrise. That's how you catch the good ones,
Mhm.
right? I can't sit there in bed going, I don't know, let me see, without looking outside, do I think it's going to be a good sunrise or not? You don't even know, right? So, and the same thing with your business. You can't just sit there and hope to do it, here and there. It's got to be consistent all the time.
Yep. You don't know. That's why you mail 2,000 postcards a month to your entire database and you don't pick 5 people you want to mail them to.
Correct. All
But
right.
it can be a fun business. It can be hard. It's definitely a roller coaster. I don't care how many years you've been in the business. You have those days when everything falls apart and those days where everything's going your way. And there's nothing you can do to stop it either way.
Kind of
But
memory like a goldfish, as they say in Ted Lasso, it's like you kind of just got to move on to the next thing, right?
yeah, you do get and that's the whole thing too, is when I hear agents going on and on about losing a deal or losing a listing, and I'm like, who cares? Go on to the next one. You have to have enough going on that the one doesn't hurt so much.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't have 4 deals a year and when one falls apart, there's 25% of your business, right? I mean, you have 150 deals a year, one falls apart and you move on.
I mean, I told you earlier that I went on 4 listing presentations today. One of them, the client seems like a royal pain in the neck. And if I don't get that one, I'm totally okay with it.
Nice position to be in. Well, you do. I mean, because that talks also to your values, right? I mean, in there it says one of those X factors is that, you do have a very strong sense of values and you have earned the right to decide who you want to do business with so that those people can fit within your value system, right?
Mhm.
And what a blessing that is to have built a business like that. And that's the message that I want people to take away is that no matter what you're doing, there's so much comfort and building that foundation, having a consistent business that's happening. That's what allows you to then to dream about expanding or doing different things, but you have to have that
The
foundation,
foundation,
and that's what nobody else wants to.
the
That's what
triangle and the
people
upside down triangle. Yep.
say. Yeah. Um, cool. Peter, what else?
I just love this conversation. There's so many important just components to what success really looks like. Because I think, especially in our business, the three of us are all in real estate. We know when people come into our business, they've got this impression of what it looks like from the outside. And then when they get that initial taste of what it takes, it's like, oh my God, that peek behind the curtain is so enlightening and not always a positive way for so many people because it takes doing those calls. The follow up, it's not the third call. Sometimes it's the eighth call or the 10th touch, whatever that is. And being willing to do that. And like you said, Kelly, do it with value, not just do it for the sake of doing it and becoming a nuisance.
Mhm.
These are all, that's where the art meets the science kind of thing.
Yeah. That's wild. I never thought of you in that way, Kelly. The art mixed with the science. Like I always focus on the science. I always focus on your process. You know what I mean? Because the process, I feel again, is that foundational piece that has caused all the business to start coming. But you're right. It's that art, that knowing when to push, when to pull back. Um, reading a room, all of those intangible factors
Yeah, and
mix.
developing a rapport with a client. I did it today. And it's funny because now that I think about it, I don't realize I'm doing it anymore because it's not a tactic.
Mhm.
It's just who I am. But when I walked into the foyer and I met this couple this morning, she immediately reminded me of Sherry Miller.
Yeah.
Looked like her, sounded like her, everything. I said, "You're not from New Jersey, are you?" "No, I'm from Chicago." Okay. Dug a little deeper. What's your background? We've relocated from California to the East Coast, pharmaceuticals. I said, "Ah, what company?" Well, she mentioned a company that I had never heard of before. And I said, "Well, I've been out of it for a while, but when I worked for Marriott Hotels, that was my that was my business, was the pharmaceutical market." So we just started talking about that and how, all the old names that used to be in pharmaceuticals. So I tend to, as soon as I walk in the door, find some common ground, whether it's an accent, whether it's something in the house, whatever it is. But I don't realize that I'm doing it. I know it's something that they teach you in sales school, but now it's just, you always want to find common ground with people. A
That's it.
bumper sticker, Penn State. Who went to Penn State? I graduated Penn State, whatever it might be.
They say, the way that you influence people, right, is to find things in common and then praise, right? I mean, those are the two greatest tactics of making a connection with somebody relatively quickly. And it's also interesting because it happened to me today. I had a meeting with some people, Manuel and Shayna, and hope they're listening to this. I told them about the podcast and that you were going to be on it, Kelly. Anyway, so I had this business meeting, and really the only purpose, I went in there very, very open. I just really wanted to get to know these people and for them to get to know me and for me to deliver a message, right? Whatever that message was. And by just, limiting that and going in open, I was able to hear so much from them in terms of what was important to them. And it makes your job so much easier, right?
Hmm.
Not that this was a job thing for me, but in any of these relationships, if we slow down, if we open ourselves up and listen, everything presents itself.
And that goes back to knowing your job, knowing your listing presentation, knowing your numbers, because when you go in on these appointments, that is not your focus. Your focus is not to get through the presentation as quickly as possible and hope that you don't get sidetracked. And I really don't know these numbers, so I'm going to have to focus on the comps. If you know all that, that's what you're there for. But you're really there to have a conversation and to learn more and, be able to have a one-on-one versus a one-way presentation, which I hate.
Dude, that was the gold right there. I mean, that just sums it up. Know your business well enough that you can focus on the thing that's important. That's the relationship. There's
I mean,
nothing
think
else.
about it. It's as simple as think about getting behind the wheel of a car. If you had to go from point A to point B, and all you could think about is how far do I turn the wheel or how hard do I have to press on the gas and when do I have to hit the brake? And if you really had to think about that, there would be no enjoyment to driving anywhere.
Right.
So, being that that's automatic, your sales skills, your ability to develop relationships, becomes the scenic drive
Mhm.
versus the vehicle to get there.
And a scenic drive sounds a lot better and
Yeah.
nicer than
Than
sitting there
worrying
and making
about,
500
That's a
phone
great
calls.
analogy. Yeah.
yeah, you
I
can
love
enjoy
that.
the sunset and enjoy the scenery rather than focusing on what's my gas gauge and what's my, odometer reading.
Yeah. Conversely, if the client is the passenger in the car, think about it. If you're concentrating so hard on trying to drive the car, I mean, you can't even have a conversation with them,
Correct.
right? Because you're so like trying to figure out where you're going.
So knowing your business should be as instinctual as the things that you do that you never give thought to.
Consciously unconscious, right? I mean, or
Mhm.
unconsciously conscious. Can't remember which one it is, but yeah, you need to get that level of mastery, and that goes into a whole conversation about mastery. I mean, everything that we've talked about today, we could have gone into 5 different tangents on every single one of them and had a whole conversation around it. There's so much there. So, hopefully you will agree to come back maybe at some point and, we can pick like a specific lane to go down. I just thought this was really cool to kind of tackle the big thing. Peter and I, every podcast has been a different message about relationships, about lead generation, about mindset, about success, about failure. And I felt like bringing you in here, you could speak to every single one of those topics that we already did because you've lived it and gone through it. You know what I mean?
Every day.
Every day. Peter, any closing thoughts, ideas?
No, I just going to unabashedly say I'm stealing the car analogy. I'm going to be delivering that in coaching sessions tomorrow. I'll give you credit though, Kelly.
Thanks. I don't need credit. Everybody always says that. You didn't give me any credit. Sorry, you need credit. I don't need credit on anything.
You just want to get paid. You
I
always say
just,
that. That's the other part.
I do. I do. I don't need credit. I just need to be paid.
Yeah.
Right. So while it's not about the money, it is about the money sometimes. I mean, because look, we all have to live as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your time today. We went long. We're usually half an hour. I wanted to give Kelly as much runway as possible as she could deliver this amazing message. You're awesome. We are in awe of you. Trust us when we say we use you as an example. I at least do, on a very regular basis because keep doing what you're doing. It's kicking ass.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
That was great.
That's
Thank you so
Coffee with
much.
the Coaches. That's it for, oh my God, like my light went out. What the hell
Yeah,
was
what
that?
happened?
Yeah, I know. I went dark. Whoa, there we go.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe I didn't pay the bills, but thanks everybody for joining us. See us again next Monday at 3 p.m. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.